Welcome back to the Bad Influence Podcast, Relationship Wednesday, where we tell you the truth about relationships. I'm the bad influence that you need in your life, Bjordan Banderas. On today's episode, let's face it. True intimacy isn't about sharing the same bed or splitting the rent. No, it's not. It's about having the courage to show each other your inner world without panic, without shame, or fear of being torn apart. Because here's the thing. Emotional safety isn't a luxury. It's the invisible glue holding relationships together. Trust me, once it's missing, everything else feels shaky as hell. Think about it. I know I'm right about this one because I have seen it with couples that I know. I've seen the complaints on social media, and I had these type of issues in my own relationship. But when was the last time you told your partner a deep-seated fear or an embarrassing flaw? Did you feel 100% safe to do so? Or did you hesitate, worried about backlash or ridicule? If you're pausing right now, that's your answer. Your relationship may lack the emotional safety you deserve. Because let's get real, right? Vulnerability isn't easy. No, it's so hard. It's so hard because it's like standing naked in front of someone, hoping they won't laugh or recoil. You're literally telling a deep-seated fear, deep-seated issue. You feel like you're naked. You're like, oh my gosh, I don't want you to laugh at me or think I'm weak or whatever. So vulnerability, I know it's hard. And in a world that prizes toughness for some reason, sharing our fragile corners often feels like a risk not worth taking. But here's the thing. Without vulnerability, your relationship is just surface level acting. In a relationship, you need vulnerability. You need to be vulnerable with your partner, like it or not, if you want your relationship to thrive. And today, we're diving deep into what emotional safety truly means, why it's a non-negotiable for a lasting bond, and how both partners can co-create that sanctuary where raw, honest feelings can thrive. And I know this can happen because that's what I have in my relationship. So, ready to strip away the mask and build something real? Great, let's get into it. So it's not secret. People crave authenticity. We all do, right? But here's the problem. Most of us grew up in environments where being vulnerable equaled being weak. We learned to keep our guard up, hide our feelings, and handle our problems alone. And then fast forward to adulthood, and we're stumbling around relationships without the basic tools for emotional safety. When your partner says something that stings or worse, uses your secrets as ammunition, you learn real quick that you can't always trust them with your softer side. And unfortunately, this shit happens a lot. That's when the walls go up, communication stalls, and resentment festers like a bad wound. Almost like it's fucking turning you into a zombie. The real issue is that even if your partner wants to make you feel safe, old wounds and unprocessed trauma can block that connection. I know that because that's what was happening with me and my wife. You might interpret their words through a lens of past betrayals, turning a neutral comment into a personal attack in your mind. Sound familiar? For me, it does, because that's what I used to do all the time. I did that with my wife and with previous relationships. And now I know why they didn't work. But don't freak out. The fact you're here means you're ready to tackle this head on, uprooting the barriers to emotional intimacy and learning to build a haven of security. So stick with me and we'll crack the code. So I have a couple of friends, Maria and Jose. They are the perfect example for this. Maria has a history of abandonment. Her father left when she was young and ex-partners cheated. So unfortunately, she's emotionally wounded. She learned to rely on no one but herself. Jake, or Jose, on the other side, I don't know why I call him Jake. Jose, on the other side, grew up with parents who were hypercritical. He's terrified of judgment, convinced he's never good enough. Everything was fine like it always starts when they first got together, which that's how it always starts, right? But as real life took over, Maria wanted to share her anxieties and vulnerabilities, and Jose wanted that closeness too. Yet every time Maria opened up, she sensed Jose's hesitation, making her feel judged or brushed off. Meanwhile, Jose was trying his best not to sound critical, but his tone still echoed his parents' style. That's something that I used to do a lot. I used to do this so many times with my wife and previous relationships. I had that communication style that was very rough. But in this situation with my friends, over time, Maria just stopped talking about her fears. Jose started feeling guilty. He withdrew too. Now, they love each other like crazy. But the emotional gap grew, leaving them lonely in the same house. They didn't realize their past baggage was poisoning their present. And it happens more often than not. So this might sound like something out of your own life, out of your own relationship right now. And that's because the struggle is universal. Everyone wants to be understood without being demeaned. Now, let's explore why emotional safety is the game changer that can turn everything around. Here's where things get fascinating. Research in psychology and neuroscience shows that feeling safe with someone literally affects our brain chemistry. Our amygdala, the fear center, takes a back seat when we trust the person in front of us, allowing for deeper connection and empathy. When we sense danger, like potential ridicule or rejection, our brains go into fight or flight mode. Cortisol, the stress hormone, floods our system and we clam up, snap, or shut down to protect ourselves. And emotional safety keeps those levels down, letting the rational, empathetic parts of our brain take the wheel, which is what we should be always doing, right? So in other words, emotional safety isn't just a nice to have. It's the bedrock for healthy communication, conflict resolution, and genuine closeness. Without it, you're basically two people tiptoeing around landmines, hoping not to blow up. Again, I've been there, so I know how that feels, and probably you know how that feels. Understanding the biology helps you see this isn't just emotional bullshit. Creating emotional safety is as vital for your relationship survival as water is for a plant. But let's lay out the steps to cultivate this safe space. My wife and I did this, and Maria and Jose also tried it, and it helped them. And again, like I always say, if it doesn't help you, tweak it. Make it your own. So step 1, practice radical empathy. Before you react to your partner's words, pause and ask yourself, what might they be feeling right now? When you approach conversations from their viewpoint, you lower defenses and open the door to genuine understanding. Step 2, validate. You don't have to agree with everything, but you should acknowledge your partner's feelings. Statements like, I can see why that upsets you, or I hear you. It must be tough. Help them feel seen and valued. Yes, I know that a lot of people don't like to do this, but based on my own experience, based on what I tell my friends and how they use this, it helps a lot. When you do some of these things, it will make your relationship better. But it takes two to make this work. Okay, so step 3, intentional listening. Not scrolling on your phone mid conversation. Make eye contact, nod, ask clarifying questions. Show you're genuinely present, because this is the thing that a lot of people don't do. Men and women do this. The other person starts talking to them, and then you get on your phone, right? I used to do it. You get on your phone and you don't pay attention, the other person feels annoyed, and then they stop talking. And when someone feels hurt, fear evaporates and safety takes over. Because at the end of the day, we want to be heard by the person that we're going to spend the rest of our lives with, or that we think at least we're going to spend the rest of our lives with, right? That's how you build a connection. Step 4, don't weaponize their words. If your partner confides a deep insecurity, resist the urge to throw it back in their face during an argument. Because if you do this, that's betrayal 101. Once you do that, rebuilding trust is a steep uphill battle. Might as well just quit at that point. I've seen it happen so many times where one of the people in the relationship do this and they can't even fix it. So, in my opinion, don't fucking do this. Step 5, own your mistakes. If you screw up, say something harsh or dismiss a concern, own it. Apologize and commit to change. Because acknowledging your role in the conflict reinforces that you're a partner, not an adversary, which is important. Step 6, set clear boundaries. Emotional safety doesn't mean a free-for-all. No, I don't know where people get this, but a lot of people think this way. Now, here's what it means. If certain behaviors or topics trigger intense distress, communicate that. Finding ways to talk about tough issues without crossing lines is crucial. It is crucial. Step 7, offer emotional first aid. When your partner is upset, don't just say calm down. No, I've made that mistake so many times, including with my wife. So instead, offer reassurance or ask, what do you need from me right now? Simple words can go a long way in diffusing tension and building safety. Follow these steps consistently and you'll see a noticeable shift. Arguments get less explosive, conversations get deeper, and trust starts to flourish. And guess what? This is very important, because when you have a relationship like this, after you're taking some of these steps or you make it work on your own, you can watch your Sunday night football, Monday night football, Thursday night football without any issues. You can play your video games, because then when you're done, guess what happens? You can go to your partner and talk, right? You can give them an hour that they need. You can give them the 10 minutes that they need from you, and they let you do whatever. Same thing happens with women. Like when you do this, you might be able to go out with your friends or do things that you want to do, and your partner is not gonna be like, why you do that? Like, why you wasting money, whatever. So there's no more arguments for petty shit, right? But these steps are just the start. Now let's talk about the practical tools you need for these steps to work. The first tool, which is the most important one, the check-in ritual. Schedule a weekly 20-minute check-in where each person shares how they felt that week. Any worries, any joys, any stressors or needs. No interrupting allowed. Just let it all out. Because this structured format keeps both of you accountable for emotional sharing. Another tool is the I statement framework. Instead of saying, you always ignore me, try, I feel unnoticed when I don't get a response. Shifting from blame to personal feelings lowers defenses and invites empathy. Because now the other person is like, oh shit, I'm sorry, I didn't know I was doing that. I didn't want to make you feel that way. The third tool, mirroring and validation. After your partner speaks, briefly repeat what you heard and validate their perspective. For example, what I'm hearing is that you feel overwhelmed when I don't plan ahead, which in a lot of situations I can understand. I used to do that. Another thing that you can say is that makes sense given your workload, right? Because everybody has a workload. Now, this technique cements understanding. The fourth tool, safe word for emotional overload. Agree on a word or phrase either of you can use when the conversation feels too heated or triggering. The safe word signals the need to pause, breathe, and reapproach calmly. It's a game changer for reducing conflict. After listening to all of this, you might be thinking, sure, we can do this for a bit, but does it really matter in the grand scheme? Trust me, it does massively. Emotional safety is the difference between a partnership that thrives and one that's on life support. In the long run, emotional safety fosters resilience. Life will throw curveballs, job losses, health scares, family dramas. Couples who build a secure emotional base weather these storms together, rather than turning on each other in a crisis. Also, safe spaces encourage personal growth. When you know your partner won't belittle your dreams or exploit your weaknesses, you're more likely to take healthy risk. Think of it as having a teammate who always has your back. The end result is deeper intimacy, more laughter, fewer pointless fights, and a more genuine sense that you're in this life as a cohesive unit. Now, let's talk about some common hiccups people face on the journey. The big one is, but I'm not used to sharing my feelings, particularly from guys. I feel awkward, you might say. Well, start small. It's like going to the gym after years of sitting on the couch. You don't lift the heaviest weight first, right? Begin with little confessions or emotional tidbits and watch your comfort grow. Well, what if my partner doesn't respond the way I want? That's part of the dance. You can control the reaction, but you can create an environment where mutual respect and empathy are the norm. Consistency often wins over even the most guarded hearts. I know that for a fact. Isn't it draining to be so emotionally open all the time? This is a question I got. Yes, it can be if you lack boundaries. Remember, emotional safety is about healthy vulnerability, not constant oversharing. It's about honesty with balance. Here's the bottom line. Emotional safety isn't a perk reserved for perfect couples. It's a deliberate choice, something you build, nurture, and protect. Once it's there, everything from your arguments to your physical intimacy transforms. So, if you're done dancing around tough topics, feeling judged or misunderstood, let this be your turning point. Start by practicing empathy, validation, and consistent check-ins. Keep each other's secrets safe. Stop weaponizing vulnerabilities. Own your mistakes. And that's it for today. Share this episode with anyone who's sick of shallow connections and ready for the real deal. Let's spark a worldwide wave of couples saying no more fake closeness. We're building emotional fortresses that let honesty thrive. This is the Bad Influence Podcast with Bjordan Banderas, challenging you to turn your relationship into a sanctuary, not a battlefield, because relationships are meant to elevate us, not tear us down. Subscribe, leave a review, and let's revolutionize how we connect with those we love. Start creating emotional safety right now and watch your relationship blossoms in ways you never thought possible. And have a great day.